brothers and sisters. Responsibility requires action. I would like to address a few issues. Faith versus knowledge. Can the existence of Jesus be proven? If we accept the thesis that Jesus is God, we should consider what faith even is. First of all, it is not knowledge. It cannot replace it. Of course, similar cognitive aspirations exist here, but faith can only complement it in a parascientific sense. If we believe in something, we do not know it. However, if we know it, we no longer have to believe. The English philosopher John Locke argues that reason, as distinct from faith and its opposite, is the discovery of the certainty or probability of the propositions of truths that the mind arrives at by deduction, deriving them from ideas acquired through the use of its natural cognitive faculties. That is, through sensory experience or reflection. On the other hand, faith is the acceptance as truth of a proposition that was not derived through rational deduction, but was accepted through trust in the one proposing it as coming from God, and transmitted supernaturally. This way of revealing truths to people is called revelation, explains Locke. Today, over 2 billion people in the world believe in Jesus Christ. But does this mean that this person truly existed? Is there any evidence that the Son of God truly existed? The most important historical sources from which we learn about Jesus are the 4 Gospels. The 3 synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Luke, and Mark, and the Gospel of John. The first 3 owe their names to the similarity in descriptions, language, vocabulary, and style. There is a theory about the existence of an early Christian document called Source Q. It was written before the formation of the New Testament. Hypothetically, it may have been written in Galilee in the 15 and 50. The text 90 and 50 years ago. The text may have contained a collection of sayings of Jesus, which Matthew and Luke would later use in their writings. Unfortunately, this document, if it ever existed, has not survived. According to historians, none of the evangelists knew Jesus personally. Biblical scholars believe that the Gospel of Mark was written around 70 CE. Matthew and Luke were written after 80, and John after 90 CE, Christ era. Therefore, they were written 40 or 60 years after the crucifixion. Experts also point out that only John and Matthew could have witnessed the life of Christ. The Apostle John was a fisherman from a lower social class. This means he likely could not read or write. In ancient times, these skills were not widely taught, and education was reserved for the wealthy. Furthermore, Jesus and the apostles spoke Aramaic. The original Gospels, however, were written in Greek. Therefore, it is likely that these exceptionally literary texts were written by people who were professional writers. It is worth nothing, however, that none of the evangelists claim to be an apostle. And Paul, in the letters of him, these writings are written in the third person, and some suggest that they were written anonymously. An Austrian historian has made a sensational discovery while reviewing Vatican books. He came across a lost fragment of the New Testament. It was written 1,750 years ago and then removed. The names were assigned to the authors to confer apostolic authority on the emerging religion of the time. It is therefore reasonable to assume that the alleged Matthew, Luke, Mark, and John wrote this text based on the account of others. So what do we know from the Gospels? Jesus was born before Christ's era, during the reign of Herod the Great. He spent his childhood in Nazareth. He began his activity around 30 Christ's era, proclaiming the coming kingdom of God, calling himself the Messiah. He was crucified by Pontius Pilate. Non-Christian writings about Jesus. A person named Jesus appears in Roman writings. In his text from 115 Christ era, entitled Annals, Publius Cornelius Tacitus writes, Nero set up the culprits and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on those hated for their shameful deeds, whom the populace called Christians. The origin of this name was given by Christ, who during the reign of Tiberius was condemned to death by the procurator Pontius Pilate, and the pernicious superstition suppressed for the time being erupted again, not only in Judea, where this evil had originated, but also in the capital, where everything monstrous and shameful flows from everywhere and finds numerous adherents. Quote end. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, in his Ancient History of Israel, describes James the Just and writes that he was the brother of Jesus, who was the leader of the Christian movement in Jerusalem. Festus was already dead, and Albinus has departed. So Ananias convened the Sanhedrin and brought before it James, the brother of Jesus, who was called Christ, and some others. He accused them of violating the law and sentenced them to be stoned. Quote end. Historians point out that the description may have been authentic, but the phrase about Christians itself was not written by an author. Another testimony of Jesus. Shroud of Turin. This is linen clothes in which Jesus was supposedly wrapped immediately after being taken down from the cross. Numerous traces of blood are visible on it, and a human figure can be seen from the front and back. It is one of the most important relics of the Church kept in Turin, Italy. The first mention of the shroud appears in the Gospels. However, from a scientific perspective, this evidence is false. Tests using a method called radiocarbon dating have shown that it does not date from the time when Jesus may have lived, but from the 14th century. Officially, the Shroud of Turin is not considered authentic evidence of Jesus' existence, but some believers believe in its sanctity. I do also believe in it. Dead Sea Scrolls. This is a collection of documents written in three languages, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. They were discovered between 1947 to 1956 in 11 caves near the ruins of Qumran in the West Bank, Israel. Radiocarbon dating was also helpful in this archaeological discovery, close to the Dead Sea now. This allowed us to determine that the scrolls could have been from the period in which Jesus lived. We can read mentions of a righteous teacher in the manuscripts. Unfortunately, it is difficult to determine who this teacher was, as the scriptures do not mention him by name. Today, some claim it was Jesus, while others question this. However, However, this person was, the chances of ever knowing the identity are rather slim. Due to the lack of reliable evidence, we will likely never know whether Jesus Christ truly existed. We are dealing with very little circumstantial evidence and writings that are often questioned by historians and biblical scholars. Following Locke's lead, until we find any reliable, tangible evidence of Jesus' existence or non-existence, belief in him will persist, and he himself will remain in the realm of the sacred. For this reason, that Jesus truly existed. Evidence in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I was in the Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre and I saw this relic. Jesus truly rose from the dead. Historical evidence. Recently, scholars conducted an inquest in the Holy Sepulchre. There was also an independent scholar there 1 year ago. The resurrection of Jesus Christ is the core of the faith we believe in. It is the Christian hope for eternal life and salvation through faith in Jesus Christ. The resurrection of Christ is a real event that cannot be explained by rational causes, but we experience it as a mystery of salvation in which we believe with faith. But is it possible to seek historical counterparts to the Gospel account of the resurrection? Let's try to understand this through the texts that tell us about this event. Everyone knows this text, Gospel by John chapter 20, verses 1 to 9. Now on the first day after the Sabbath, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw the stone taken away from the tomb. So she ran and came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." So Peter and the other disciple went out and went towards the tomb. They both ran together, but the other disciple outran Peter and arrived first at the tomb. And stooping down, he saw the linen clothes lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter also came, following him. He went into the tomb and saw the linen clothes lying there, and the cloth that had been around his head, not lying with the linen clothes, but rolled up in a separate place. A very interesting, very important sentence of the Gospel. Then the other disciples who had arrived at the tomb first also entered. He saw and believed, because the formation of the lines of the clothes was as was earlier, before this day, before morning of the Sunday, of the Easter time. For as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from dead. Now on the first day on the week, we very early in the morning, very important, Jesus really existed. Evidence in the Basilica of Holy Sepulchre. There was a cemetery there at that time while living Jesus. A place of skulls, Skull Hill, had been there. Now let's ask like this: grace or injustice? Another problem, but very close to my question. Responsibility requires action. Mother Teresa, Saint Mother Teresa of Kolkata, is suffering something to be sanctified or something to be fought against. Mother Teresa represents a spiritual perspective, or one that gives meaning to suffering. Meaning is found through faith, compassion, and the promise of something beyond the material world. Another person, Victor Hugo, however, rejects this approach, seeing poverty not as sacred, but as man-made injustice that requires action, not acceptance. Our way forward. Between grace and injustice lies responsibility, finding meaning in suffering without normalizing it. Compassion should not justify pain, should strive to end it. A question for thinkers. Sometimes we ourselves we are thinkers. If we call suffering divine, does this comfort this victim? The victim, or does it protect the system that caused the suffering? Beloved, we are to suffer as God does. And this will always fill us with joy. Nature is with us until the moment. However, we should not suffer through a multiple beneficial, created and emerging system that actually caused suffering. Let us take responsibility for suffering, following the example of Jesus. It really existed, a trace in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, and others, two places in Jerusalem. The believers went one day to the Holy Sepulchre, another day to the Garden Tomb. Protestants, many believe this Jesus was buried in the Garden Tomb, close to the Gethsemane. Where was the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea? In the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, probably. Linen clothes that covered Jesus, shroud in place of the head, rolled up in one place. And this look out of the apostles in the morning of Easter. And through journey of life, we are born alone, we pass away alone, but love remains. Memories remain, every smile we give, every kind words we share, every heart we touch. These are the things that will last us. This is the trace we leave behind. Appreciate every moment, spread love, make your life matter. This body has no value. One day it will return to dust, and the world will go on without me. All the stress, the pain, the sleepless nights, none of this will ultimately matter. So why do we carry so much weight in our hearts? Why do we forget to live, love, forgive? Because ultimately it's not the body that has value, it's the soul, that love we give and the memories we leave behind. On this occasion, I would like to confess that I still between pain and hope. Quote by Aneta Bartschak. I chase life with a shadow of anger in my eyes. I search for myself in the empty streets of memories. And though I haven't found myself yet, I still run. I hold in my hands what's left in my heart. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it trembles with the rhythm of memories. And I whisper to myself, you are here, you are still. My anger will not change my days. Like a mission hand, it burns but doesn't hurt. It leads me towards the light, where the heart will finally dance to the rhythm of hope. For who truly is a tourist if not an invader in blinding white socks and a selfie stick? Murder is eternal, somebody said, and what happens to one happens to all. It's like human vanity and impudence to call an animal stupid because it's stupid for its dull perceptions. Mark Twain said, everything is a wave, ebb, flow, even your people. We have every advantage in this new world, harnessing the power and knowledge of the old. A new beginning is sometimes the perfect way. We must realize that our greatest gifts sometimes come in the ugliest of shells. We'll fall in love in every moment, singing to the moon that has loved us since we were stars. May gift of ours My gift to you is consciousness. Consciousness is not the brain. So trust Jesus that we are here all around you, talking to each other and dreaming of your success. Magic is everywhere in the silver at snail's walk, and lit up your veins. Open those beautiful eyes to the world. That's a mosaic of magic. It's just waiting for you to notice it. And now I would like to quote sentences from the literature of today. How many of us can recognize the human face, even in mask or trying to disguise ourselves? We all can. We all can. Came an unanimous cry from the trees. The raven continued. Our children know to heed the warning of the enemy, and how many people can recognize a single crow? His eyes were mesmerizing and gleaming. I remembered how once, after spreading my wings around the neighborhood, I returned and saw Big Jim squawking at the student crow with a white streak of its wing, nervously calling it from our Green Mountain sugar maple. He called it shit, shouting at it to hurry up and sit on its shoulder or it would be late for ping pong. It was in the process of shedding half my size and had a sebaceous sized the size of a jawbreaker protruding from her chest. It was a serious blow to her former self-esteem. For educational purposes, I would say here I'll quote a sentence from the literature. I am an American crow. Author of this text said, "Do you still listen to me? Crows are not popular, you see. We are judged because we are black, because our feathers do not have the speckled majesty of a red-tailed hawk or the captivating cobalt of a blue jay. Those stupid bastards. Yes, we are not as delicate and capricious as human birds, and as wise as owls, by the way. That's a completely misleading terms, and not as cute as an hourglass with a belly resembling a hamster, commonly known as a penguin. Ravens are harbingers of death and omens, good or bad, and bad, according to Big Jim, according to another Northern tricksters associated with mystery, the occult, the unknown, the afterlife, wherever that is, Portland, and so on. We make people think of the dead and of terribly disturbing poetry. Admittedly, we don't help the cause by happily feasting on fish gods in a landfill by hay. Black wings humans were a plague on earth. They couldn't control the numbers of the consumption on the land, so nature did it for them. She's not kind, she's sustainable. If you're wondering what a human is, there are basically bald apes who covered their genitals with clothes and experienced constant indignation. Curiosity grabbed me by the beak and wouldn't let go. If you think cats are curious, try being an enlightened crow. We never get lost and never arrive because the pack finds its way. Someone has a way of always being where they want to be. Genghis the cat was here for Dennis, hero of this text. And everyone in the world knows that if you have a cat's respect, it means your soul is worthy of company. Dennis is the purest soul I know, the crow said, thick laugh spreading over him like cream cheese frosting. He'd give you a good beating for fries, I said matter-of-factly. I was going to do what the Poles might have done. Might have answered for that I, I told earlier, to take responsibility and bring peace to a world that was falling apart without them. We were losing what makes us human, losing the best in us. Call me naive or coward, and I show you a raven that's here to tell you the damn story. Moments fly by, vanishing before you know it, and so on. Within a person. It was a strange group of stern-looking birds of prey who said they had something to show me. We are going on a journey. You can't tell anyone, said the harrier, his face serene and deathly grim. It's like human vanity and impudence to call an animal stupid because it's stupid for its obtuse perceptions, Mark Twain said. Loss highlights everything, doesn't it? The fragile beauty of life, the desire to live widely. It sweeps away the filth from all that is irrelevant, exposing the truth. Everything is a wave, as I said. Be the joys that tramples your leaves, and that betrayal that sewer your roots, poisoning the water you draw. These are the different notes in the music of life. My gift to you is awareness. Nature is the fundamental living environment of which we are a part, offering mental regeneration, peace, and physical health. Nature is not just our surroundings, but the life support system essential to our well-being. We are here all around you, talking to each other and dreaming of your success. Magic is everywhere, in the silver walk of a snail, illuminating your veins. Open those beautiful eyes to the world that is a mosaic of magic. It's just waiting for you to notice it. With light hearts and bellies full of orange magic, we set out in search of another ghost who looked like a coconut that could open doors. Dennis and I, coming from a family of deeply religious eaters, committed ourselves not only to the meals prescribed by society but also to less traditional meals, such as small potatoes or mud pillows, and cheese is the cure for boredom. I twitched my throat, hating the part of me they recognized, desperately wanting to rip off my wings, walk on two legs, and have an unlimited imagination. I was tired of being a piece of a puzzle, pieces of this and remnants of that. I was one color, but not one thing. I wanted to be perceived, to look, sound, and act the way I felt inside. I was sitting on Vesuvius, and my ass was about to be treated like Pompeii. And they were panting after me with their wet panting, unbridled enthusiasm, and hearts as big as blue whales. Trees are taciturn. You can't force them to do or say anything. The concept of time is different from that of other beings. Their philosophy is one of constant and deliberate existence, slow as sap, like spreading roots. In our state of Washington, everything grows lush, emerald moss, honey-flavored apples, sweet cherish, big dreams, caffeine addiction, and intense passive aggression. We share a sleeping space, and that suits me fine because Orange is as warm as a silver blanket and sometimes strokes me with his fingers when I let him. Other times I slap him to remind him who rules everything. I am Mother Tree, part of something larger than myself, with an ancient forest, and all of us are connected by swirling roots. Here and there we intertwine so tightly that when one of us dies, the other must die. Our stance is one, braving the leaks of lightning and the sticky scarlet appetites of insects. we warn neighboring treetops of drought and danger with our fragrant song and send quick, silvery messages through the web, the mushroom trails. Like you is sweet, we scream when we are thirsty, we bleed when we are cut, and we remember. Around there were creatures with scale, bristles of love, drooling tongues, kind hearts, gentle souls, and soft notes. Creatures who knew the magic of nature, what they give us in protection and affection, what it means to love them with all your heart, nose, and beak. Everywhere I looked was more vivid, as if I were seeing it in 4D, thanks to the new knowledge I had acquired. Life isn't the same once you know them, once you experience how deeply a tree can feel. I have 9 brains, which never stop growing, 3 hearts, and I can regenerate arms, but mainly because I am a woman. Well done. Admittedly, I have limited knowledge of them, but they always seemed omniscient and menacing to me. The ice shrink, my body follows its suggestion. This aren't the iceberg of my puppy season. The ice kingdom is mere shadow of what it once was. Now there is an eerie silence and the drip of ice as it sheds tears. Dennis and I followed a slippery hill. Through the cells of life, you are marching towards a trial that has already condemned you. Franz Kafka once said. Very interesting, very phrase. Beneath what is now the Church of St. Peter in Gallicanto in Jerusalem, there are deep cisterns and cellars carved into the rock, which may have served the high priest as temporary dungeons for those on trial. One might think that the night in the prison dungeon was a time of peace for Jesus before the judgment that awaited him, a time when he could pray without embarrassment and ponder what would happen at dawn. But each of the mystics to whom Jesus revealed the secret of his imprisonment dissuaded us from this naive belief. What and how much I suffered is also shrouded in the darkness of secrets. I had no witness there to witness my pain, suffering, and agony. I want to reveal to you a glimpse of this suffering because I want you to have rest in your heart after the hardships of that night. Similarly, in the vision of blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, Jesus is not alone in this repulsive place. He is accompanied by guards, or rather sadists, who probably themselves avoided the fate of the condemned by devoting themselves to thankless service. For these people, tormenting the inmates was a pastime they used to kill boredom. No one had to force them to do it. There were 3 or 4 of them. Their presence turns out to be worse than loneliness, a torment no one knows about. However, the torment did not feel the entire time of the Caiaphas being imprisoned in the dungeon. The soldiers, having eaten their fill of me, left me alone until morning in the dark, damp and stinking room, wrote Catalina Rivas. Jesus knows the taste of night. In the dungeon, Jesus became a prisoner. He, the giver of freedom, allowed himself to be locked in a dungeon. During those few hours, he became the brother of all those unjustly convicted, tortured in the torture chambers of totalitarian regimes, persecuted for their faith. In the morning, Jesus is beaten, cold, dirty, sleep-deprived, and yet in his gaze, as the mystics say, there is no hatred. There is only inexpressible sadness and love that pushes him further towards the cross. Jesus gazed straight from the dungeon full of forgiveness, broke the heart of the Apostle Peter. The dungeon is also a call to enter the depths of the mystery. For Sister Faustina, the dungeon at Caiaphas dungeon was not only a place of torture, it was a place where mercy encountered the greatest human misery. In moments of greatest abandonment, Jesus opens the bowels of his mercy. When the world sees in him only a condemned man thrown into the mud of the dungeon, he buys us the right to heaven at that moment when the first rays of the sun fall on Jerusalem. Thanks to St. Faustina revelations, the sun never sets on the mystery of mercy. Now 1 hour of contemplating my sorrowful passion has greater merit than an entire year of flagellation that draws blood. Thus we can look anew and at the face of the risen one, full of hope and his mercy. To prove that Jesus existed is to show with your life the greatness of your day. Why? To prove Jesus existed. Proof of this of a dungeon. Brother, following the salvific suffering of Jesus in the dungeon, someone wrote, imagine, poet said, a day that matters if you are there where silence has its name, and the whisper is not lost along the way. Stop by me. I bring no grand words, only a request as simple as a breath, which sometimes stops halfway. Give me one day, no one that flows like water through your hands, no one that dissipates into a meaningless things. Give me a day that lasts, because I know how easy it is to exist and not touch life, how easy it is to pass someone by, not seeing the way. And yet someone stands nearby in silence, which screams louder than words. Someone is waiting, though they no longer believe anyone will come. If this day is a gift, let me truly see it. Let my eyes linger where others quicken their pace. Let my words find a way, the places that have long fallen silent. Because perhaps it doesn't take much, maybe enough to be truly without escape, without pretense. If I get this day, I don't want to keep it. I want to give it away. In a look, in a gesture, in the silence between words, in the moment you give for someone, because maybe that's how life is measured. Not by the number of days, but by how many of them became a light for others. So please, if I can still, give me one more day. They won't be just mine. Thank you very much.